Alright folks, so this is kind of like part 3. We're eventually going to get this I5-13600kf working in this Asus Prime Z690-p Wi-Fi D4 motherboard. So you may have seen, we put it in. BIOS was older, so it booted to black. Switched out the CPU. Currently there's a Celeron in there. And did the BIOS update. That's kind of like part 2 of this video series. Now part 3, we're going to finally get the i5-13600kf in here. Install that, and we'll put the, what else should we do in this video, folks? Frost Commander. We'll do the Thermalright Frost Commander 140, which is really similar to the Noctua D15, but it's half the price. Maybe more than half the price, actually. So we're going to pull this one out of here. Now this is the stock cooler on here is the i9-12900 stock cooler, or i9-12900F. We will be curious when 13th gen i9-13900 comes out, assuming it does, what they'll use for a stock cooler. My personal opinion, they should drop the price and just, you know, go get your own cooler. Now I'm also thinking I'll go ahead and install the Thermalright CPU frame again on this. Okay, let me clean this up. So I'm going to pull this out, and basically we're going to go from this CPU to the i5-13600kf. Triangle here, and I try to use 2 hands just to make sure this thing doesn't slip out of one hand. So let's just get a real close up of this, folks. This green portion of the CPU will be flush with the gray frame around it, alright? Now from here, put that down there and back in there, okay? That's how you would do it if you decide not to use one of these frames, okay? So in my case, I'm going to replace this with the frame, just so you guys can see that. We did it previously. I have had a couple of complaints about it. I don't know if we'll call them complaints. Constructive criticisms about it. Personally, I would say I would pull this out, put the cover back on. But the CPU does potentially protect the sockets in there. And they gave you the crappiest little screwdriver, but I think it's mainly, it's going to be a lot harder to over torque this. And oh yeah, we don't need this base plate anymore. Get that out of there. So just going around and unscrewing these guys. Now there is some pressure on this back one, so take that off now so that hopefully it doesn't pop the CPU out of the socket. That's one thing you don't want with this whole experiment. CPU still in place. So I'm going to just apply some pressure with my finger, keep the CPU where it is. And voila. Now you're going to need these screws. So you have to get those out of the frame. Same with the ones over here. Alright, now that we've done that, folks, we have thermal paste all over the place. So we'll put the frame in over the CPU. That was interesting, like it really went on easy the first time. Alright, CPU is in there good. Notice the triangle right here. That lines up with the triangle on the CPU, which you can just barely see right there. Alright. Now, no, I did it that great in the other video. I want to get a couple threads on there. Go in diagonally. Get a couple threads here. And then we'll just follow the directions from one of the viewers, because there are no directions with this thing. So a couple threads here. And then this back one. Alright, so now we can start going 90 degrees. And the goal is to have this thing drop into position. So we'll come back in. Alright, I'm going to switch from that method to this. Get a little bit of torque on it. That's good. Don't want to overdo it. I could put, 260 pounds behind this, but that's good. And voila, okay. And we'll just check. Good. 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 All right. So, we got to get ready for the Thermalright Frost Commander. If I had, so I have Noctua D15, D14. And this is, here's the back plate. This thing is probably really close, folks, to a, somewhere between the D14 and the D15. So next thing you're going to do is use, I guess we'll call these thumb screws, because now these, you definitely want to make sure that they're nice and tight. The next step, though, will, I believe, force them, when you're tightening the nuts in, I believe that will force these to get tighter. But for now, we'll just try and get that with our fingers. Later, you may have to use something like this to pull them out, right? All right. Now, before we do the next step, folks, we've got to figure out orientation of this thing. That is how our cooler needs to look, okay? So that means that's got to go in like that. And my biggest concern is always that I'll lose hardware. Or that I don't have this bracket oriented correctly. Let me get the second one in there and then we'll tighten that all the way down. To be honest with you folks, I think I put it in backwards. It's in backwards. Let's do the other side the correct way. And then we'll put that in. Then we'll take that one out. So it should look like this, all right? Flip this over. Wow, so that actually unscrewed this side. All right, so let's start this side over again. All right, so this should be super simple. At least the first time it was. It helps to do it right. All right, so unlike Noctua, where I've installed the D14, D15 20, 30 times, second time on the Frost Commander, just tighten all these up one last time. Now, thermal paste. I usually like to check, folks, that these indeed line up before you apply the thermal paste. I'm going to use the thermal paste that Thermalright provided. Okay. I think we'll need to zoom out a little bit. So we're going to try to get a few threads on one side, switch over to the other side, and now we can crank once we verify that we've got them. This, when you put the fan in, you may have to have your RAM pre-installed, alright? I've got mine in already, as we've previously used this motherboard. So there's that, folks. Now for the fans. And these are, these don't have ARGB or anything exciting. So this fan, 120 millimeter. And you can do these brackets at the same time if you're good. Get that thing centered. Get it to reach up. So that's in. And then for the big 140 millimeter fan, keeping the brackets on makes life easier than trying to put the brackets on. Oop. And it pops out. And pull those tight into there. For some reason I thought it was going up to the second row, but this first row. Now, with this setup, 2 into 1, we could add a third fan if we wanted to. So then we'll plug into this header. And that's in. So folks, that is going to do it. Our stuff is ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and hook this thing up. Alright, so you can't see it. On the other side, hooking up the 24 pin power connector. I'm so positive this is going to work. I'm just going to go ahead and plug everything in while I can. Normally I, would maybe do minimal stuff, but we've already proven a few things are good on this thing. So, what else do we need? We need a 1x8 or two 1x4s basically. This motherboard supports an additional 1x4, so we will plug that in as well. And of course, with this not being in the case, these cables are going to be I have to tuck them underneath the fan. So CPU power, 24 power or 24 pin power connector from PSU, graphics card, HDMI. Pop that in there into the PCIe slot. And folks, the only thing we're missing is a M.2. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on so you guys can see it functioning. Click the power button, and then and voila, it's good to go. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you.